The date is September 16th, 2023, and it is a beautiful Saturday, and the unbearable heat that has made the past 2 months some of the worst in recent memory has finally subsided. So, with a clear schedule, I'd venture out to see what I could find on the move on CPKC's Shreveport Terminal Subdivision. At milepost 565, we are south of the city at Forbing. Just a few miles south of here, the terminal sub will transition into the Beaumont subdivision, which runs south through West Louisiana down towards the route's namesake, Beaumont, Texas. It's a little after 10 a.m. and the sight of this Mexican restaurant made me realize that I had skipped breakfast. While I was getting pretty hungry, I'd have to wait since we had a headlight in the distance. Approaching is daily CPKC manifest train M280. M280 classifies just a few miles from here at the massive CPKC yard nicknamed Duramus. Once it departs Shreveport, it begins the long journey south into Sanchez Yard in Mexico. Today, the train is running with a 1x1 locomotive consist with a General Electric CP motor up front pulling and an EMD Southern Belle pushing on the rear. While not a bad train to start the morning, our main objective for the day was already in sight, hot on the 280's tail. While driving through the city, I spotted military equipment slithering through the city, so that's why I drove here to hopefully begin a chase. This is a military train, and leading it would be a pair of CSX locomotives. CSX isn't super common in these parts, but what is even less common was this specific CSX leader. CSX 4077. A rebuilt SD-40-3 locomotive was hauling these U.S. Army vehicles southbound. The train has recently come off the CPKC Meridian Speedway, but it originated at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. This will be the final leg of its journey. It's bound for Fort Johnson down near Leesville, Louisiana. Fort Johnson was actually recently renamed from its previous title of Fort Polk. The fort is now named after African-American World War I hero Henry Johnson, who was honored for his remarkable actions during the bloody conflicts in the Argonne Forest. In 1918, the French would award him with the Croix de Guerre and the Bronze Star, making him the first African-American soldier to receive the honor. The United States would award him with the Medal of Honor in 2015, 86 years after he died of tuberculosis in 1929. While the plan was to chase the entire train the entire way down to Fort Johnson, but first a dispatch had to find a spot for the train to tie down and await for a truck to arrive and refuel the locomotives. Dispatch has decided the best location to set the train will be the Slack Industrial Park siding. To get into position, the entirety of the train was to clear the south switch, which is about half a mile from where I'm standing. Once the switch is clear, the conductor who hopped off the train down there will flip the switch and our CSX motors will perform a shove move back into the siding. CSX number 4077 was built in later 1979 for the classic road, the Louisville and Nashville. In the 80s, the locomotive would be absorbed into the Seaboard system, along with the rest of the L&N, before becoming part of the CSX fleet. The locomotive was an SD40-2 throughout its entire career until 2015, when it would be selected to be a part of the CSX-3 rebuild program. While it would receive many interior upgrades and modifications, the cosmetics of the cab would receive a massive makeover with its squared-off appearance, which is supposed to increase safety. Not to mention, the cab would feature built-in air conditioning, which I'm sure the crews loved in this hot summer. Rail fans are pretty divided on these units. Some like how they look, others hate it. I'm kind of fond of these just on the fact of how different they look. It adds some variety on the increasingly monotonous Class 1s. I'm a bigger fan of the nickname though, SpongeBob Square Cabs. As soon as the train tied down to await refueling, I'd take the opportunity to grab some lunch and top off the truck with gas. I'd return to find another southbound racing by. I do hate that I wasn't able to film this one because there was a KCS de Mexico Gray Ghost in the lead. Luckily, a few more road trains would roll by as I waited for the fuel truck to arrive. The next being Hotshot Intermodal Service Train I-180 with a rebuilt Canadian Pacific SD70 ACU on the point. This service began in May of this year and runs from the windy city of Chicago all the way down to Mexico City. Another hour or so would pass and we'd have a northbound arrive to the scene. This is train M275, a mixed freight that includes cuts of intermodal. This train also serves both Mexico and the United States and is ultimately bound for High Oak Yard outside of Jackson, Mississippi. And finally, after about 3 or 4 hours of waiting, the fuel truck has arrived and tops off the power. Shortly after being refueled, dispatch will give the go-ahead to hop back onto the main line and head for Fort Johnson. While I had plans to follow the train all the way down to the base, the 3-hour wait had killed my enthusiasm, so I would only catch one more roll-by about 10 miles south of here. Turns out the train would have to halt at the next signal block, so I'm not even sure if it would have made it to the fort before sundown. Whether it made it there or not, I hope you have enjoyed this video on this military train and the other CPKC action. If you did enjoy, please leave a like down below and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Until the next time, my friends, I'll be seeing you somewhere out there along the rails, and as always, thanks for watching.